storage unit for the spirit house. The father at dining room table, shades drawn, wobbly throne. The daughters with their brown, shaky hands. A forest knot haunts the master closet among the clothes moths, felt wolverines. Daughter number 1 hiding behind a juniper bush, bright longies, wooden handgun in metal case. Daughter number 2 sleeps with a long broom next to her bed, mint chocolates under pillow. 5 a.m., the father drops a cold, wet towel on her face. Storage unit filled with boxes of LPs, Joni, Dylan, Carly. Back cover of Jimi Hendrix Experience. On 2 hits of acid, this will blow your brains out. Dusty military jackets, punishment belt, piles of lock boxes missing keys, jars of Nescafe, VHS tapes of Burmese pop singers. Daughter number 3 listens to father's records in the den, altered music room. Sits on the piano bench near the door, the father in armchair, Joni singing A Case of You. Forest knot flutters above in air, smoky from Kent 100s. This poem is from Storage Unit for the Spirit House on Amidan by Washing Lin.
Sorry, the police and soldier was they are everywhere. They check the car and check the phone. We don't know how many people they arrest. We don't know how many people they get at night. But every day, have a missing people. At least 5 or 10 people at night. Last 3 days ago, my friend, a little far friend, not a close friend, he was missing right now. He went out from his house to buy something at the shop at evening, maybe 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. But he didn't come back that night. His family was thought he might be some friend house, but after 2 days and 3 days, he wasn't come back. So his mother was so worried about him. So she called him, but the phone was ring. No one was handed to answer the phone. Every day, a dead body was increased, and rising people and missing people are upcoming increase in every day. We don't have weapon, we don't have army to fight back. Every day we was scared. When did they come to arrest us? Which time and where? Every day we worry about that.
Before we start today's interview, please allow me a word or two about our podcast. Even as Myanmar plunges into a civil war because of the military's bloody coup, the international community and media organizations have all but turned their backs on the country and its people. But this humble platform is committed to staying the course. We conduct nuanced, long-form interviews with a variety of guests connected to Myanmar so our listeners can better understand the ongoing crisis. Thank you for choosing to spend the next couple of hours with us today.
I'm a French journalist in Bangkok, and I was also a media teacher in Myanmar before COVID, when it was still possible to travel there. So when the coup happened on the 1st of February, some of my former students reached out to me because they were now graduating journalists, and all of them went into the streets to cover the protests, the anti-coup protests, and they publish picture and info. Some of them work for local media, but they ask me, can you help us to give an international audience to this event and this picture? So we founded a collective, which is called the Myanmar Project Collective, and it's a network of 10 to 12 people across the country who were trained to professional media reporting, and who keep sending picture, video, writing articles about precise local events from 10 different states. So then we have a team in Bangkok, and with Nadia Uben, who is in the Netherlands, and with NGO Human Rights in the Picture. We decided to create a platform with the photographer from the Myanmar Project Collective, as well as other creators. So this is filmmaker and artist. So for the moment, we have a dozen of photographers, and then one filmmaker who filmed for 4 to 5 months inside Myanmar in different places, and who will produce and provide a long documentary very soon with this footage. So this platform is also for him to show his work. And then we have an artist. So we have some graphic designer or artist who can also use this platform to show their work. So the platform has two goals: is to build a professional website where all of the creators have their own profile, their own page, so it can be used for them for internship, for work opportunities, for CV. It's a memory of their work, of their best work that we have crafted, that we have edited, that we have published. And then the other side is there is a donation page because we have several projects. So all the publication we managed to sell, to publish in, all the money is sent back to the authors in Myanmar, and this donation page on the website is a way to continue our support program, who goes from VPN subscription to daily English online lesson, and to cash donation, to buy material, to renew passport, to everything that's needed for them to be able to work in safety. Some cybersecurity training also. And third, obviously, it's also to keep the light on what's happening in Myanmar, because we know that now it's almost a year, and international interest has dropped a lot. You can see it in the algorithm, in the news feature about the country. We had an exhibition also in Bangkok with some of the pictures of the collective about women, especially about the women who were on the front line in protest all across the country. And quite a lot of people came, and Thai people, and they came and they said, we didn't even know that there was still dramatic events happening in Myanmar. This was in December, so really after 8-10 months, most people are dropped of the events. Now it's a bit in Thailand media again, because it's at the door of Thailand, in the sense that thousands of refugees or villagers are trying to cross to Thailand to go in refugee camps here, because the assaults are so violent and intense on the other side, in Karenika, Karen state. But I mean, in the regional, international focus, it has slowed down a lot. So we still want to provide updated, checked quality local information about what's happening there. Yeah, so that's the idea.
So that's certainly quite a lot of things that you're taking on for quite a small team. Actually, it's a very impressive output. The first question, obviously, is yes, it's excellent that we're giving a platform to these talented journalists and to these artists and people who are helping to bring this information. But is there a risk to their safety by having all of this anti-coup, anti-military content hosted on a public website?
So there is no name and there is no exact places in the credit. So each page, each photographer has a pseudonym. So it's like a code name, so they can still find their work under this page, but there is no name, there is no metadata on the picture, and we gave the township for most of them. No, when it's in a small village, we don't give the name of the village, which we put simply the township. Half of at least let's say half of the team is not at the place anymore of hometown living, because most of the picture we have until end of March, maybe beginning of April max, because as you know, the crackdown has intensified so much from the end of March that it became so dangerous and impossible for mass protest. So the journalists don't go out in the streets anymore, because you also know that some journalists have been arrested while covering, and this is obviously something we really never want to happen. So the street protests are not covered anymore. Most of them are not in the place of hometown anymore. They are hiding somewhere else, and there is not much way you can make a connection between their work on or themselves, because the name is not out. So for sure, it's a big concern. And now we have moved to let's say investigative reporting, much less in the video content or picture. Because it's so dangerous to get out with a camera and take a picture. So now it's simply kind of underground work of casual interviews while pretending not to do it, and this is how we gather information now. So in the very close surroundings, they report without being open about it, but mostly text and info. This is what we can do at the moment. We have some of the team who is able now to send a picture of what's happening on the Thai-Myanmar border, which is a bit easier because quite a lot of pockets of the are not controlled by the military, or on the Thai side, it's possible now to see the IDP camps and to visit there. So as much as we really have to evolve our report to make our reporting evolve according to the security situation. So some things are really not possible anymore, covering street protest, but other things are still possible. You can still inquire what's happening to the unions in a factory, what's happening at the trade. The checkpoint for trade at the border between State and China, there is still thing we can know, but it's the shape of it that has to change because of safety. Yeah, so they will also enroll all of them in a cybersecurity as well on the ground safety training right after the coup. They were in a session. So this program has been going on for them, and yes, we change every week, every 2 weeks, every month the strategy of reporting to make sure that no one knows who they are and where it comes from.
And I think it's very important to emphasize this because, as you said, it has gotten much more difficult. There have been a lot of crackdowns. We saw towards the end of last year during the silent strike, 2 reporters, as you know, were arrested, and one of them unfortunately died in custody not long after that. And it's almost certain that the other reporter, the cameraman, was tortured by by security forces. So the risk to people getting this information is incredibly high. But we desperately need to get this information. And I want to circle around. You mentioned we're getting information about things like trade over the borders, checkpoints, what's going on in factories. What sort of value does this sort of, let's call it indirect information, have to the international audience? What can we learn about the situation from this sort of information?
I think it's very useful to be aware of what is the daily life for people and what is the socio-economic impact of the coup, but also all of the global exodus of international companies from Myanmar, who for sure have brought a lot of work opportunities and developments among other issue. But what does it do when after a decade of liberalization reforms will allow all this company to come in terms of textile, but telecommunication, all these aspects of life who have been greatly developed since 10 years, and suddenly it's in a standstill. So we wanted to know what is the reality of it. Is really everything in a standstill economically? And if it is, how do people cope with it? Can they cope with it? And once you know this, you also know how to help better, because I think there is, even if the interest has gone down from Myanmar, I think there are still people who would like to know, would like to help people. But if you don't know exactly what the situation, your support might be misplaced, actually, because you don't know where to send it, how to send it, and where it gets, and what are the most needs. The main needs, and I think detailed information about the impact of the coup on the majority of people in Myanmar is of great value to see how can NGO or companies contribute to a bit soften the intensity of the shock that has been done to the Myanmar society. And if you know that some companies have stopped production, we know actually that some factories have to completely stop simply because most of the staff worked out as CDM, and this has a strong impact on a local level. When you have one giant factory where you have 1,000 people and you have 800 people who worked out, it has a certain impact. I think if you know what's the situation for people, you also know how to support them better. And this is the big, it was really emphasized in the case of Telenor now, who chose to leave the country because it said it couldn't operate under the new rules of the SAC that they put on the telecommunication operator, which is totally receivable as an argument. But then what do you do with all the user data that are left? And also they needed to be aware that Telenor was really the first choice for activists even before the coup, because it was deemed as the most transparent. And so now you have really people freaking out, and they are pushed to buy Mytel and MPT SIM card and data package, because they are the only one who have not been really put up the price. So Telenor and Ooredoo and most of the operators had to put up the price to make loss for the profit. And Mytel decided not to make discounts, because, as you know, it's military owned. So people are saying we are pushed they make everything they can. So we have to buy the products, we have to support the companies, and this is what happened when you go out of a country very hastily, without looking behind of the impact of all of this. So every company that was in Myanmar has a responsibility now, because people were somehow dependent of the product and had more trust in the product than the military-owned product. So there is still a very strong movement of boycotts against military-owned company, be it telecom, be it beer, be it Siemens, be it supermarket, or as it goes wide and far. So people are in a situation where they have to boycott the products that are linked to the military, but at the same time it became the only one available because of the disruption in trade and this exodus of international companies. So I think that is very valuable for policy making, to know these things, what people are subjected to and what they have to do and how they have to cope. And I would also say that our findings show that the main support network for people right now is still the local community, be it religious or non-religious. But at the moment, it's the temple, it's the churches, it's the local CEO, it's the ethnic group who provide for their own people, because the international agency saying with the companies they are tied up. No, they are locked up. They have to ask authorization for every single bag of rice to be sent across the country. So we know why we're in this situation, but the reality is that it's only this local network that makes sure that people still have something to eat, and they organize the transport to go to refugee camps when it gets really bad in the village. So they do all this work on the ground, and I think that knowing this is also helpful in the sense of then it become really obvious how to help and who to help, because they have the access, they have the language, they know the needs. So if the people on the ground are identified who still make a difference, I think it's very helpful for the international audience to know this. It points you to the right direction.
I mean, there's so many things came up to me when you were saying that. So I think the first thing I want to say, for the benefit of people who have not been following the situation as closely, very recently, I think it was possibly just this month, the military announced that there would be a 15% tax levied on all data purchases, and I think a 20,000 kyat tax on all SIM cards. Which, again, for people outside of the situation, 20,000 kyat before the coup was a very good day's pay salary for a laborer or for a plumber or something like this. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And it goes back to the way that things used to be prior to the relative liberalization after 2010 and 2015, where SIM cards were available. They were just an annual salaries cost, $3,000, $5,000 for a SIM card. It's that control of information. And I actually sympathize a lot with Telenor, because they tried. They genuinely did the best that they could. They gave forewarning throughout March and April and May of required shutdowns and blackouts, and they really did everything they could, but their hands are tied. They can't legally do anything to help the people anymore, and the military are driving them from the country very deliberately. It's a terrible situation. But the other thing you raised was the textile factories, for example. And I happened, through a different direction, I happened to be doing a little bit of work on this a while ago, and it raised, as you say, the people walked away because of CDM. And we heard from companies like H&M and a couple of other European companies who have reestablished orders and connections to textile companies in Myanmar. And they're saying, well, we have to do this because if we don't put orders in and we don't pay money to the factory, those people don't have a salary. And it's very difficult to explain. The people who left for CDM are not coming back. The people who get that money are probably going to be connected to the military. They're probably going to be cronies. They're probably going to be, informants for the military, things like this. So it really does paint just how many different tiny ways we have to pay attention to the local economic details in order to be ethical with our investment and ethical with our attempts to help. Because you are also correct when you say that one factory might support a local community, and that might be their source of dinner. It's very tempting to say, I have to give money to this factory because it will support this village. It may support the village, or it may support the military. It's very difficult to research.
And it's I think it's important not to put a judgment. I know that boycotting or not production in Myanmar was a very heated debate, and I don't think it's my role to give any opinion on this, but stating at least the fact and not judging individual choices because you have money. Okay, so a lot of people have walked out because, as we know, the factories from Yangon are the pockets of unionization in Myanmar before the coup. Only a very small percentage, a percent of the Myanmar workers actually were unionized. It was made possible with the liberalization reform to make unions finally, but in reality, it's mostly happened in the textile factory in Lentaria around Yangon. So it made a great difference in the bargaining power. And now with the coup, all of the union leaders have been fired or didn't go back to work because they knew that they were on the front line and would be arrested. So we basically have a situation where there is no unions anymore. And people who went back some people went back now to the factory maybe after 5, 6, 7, 8 months, simply by pure desperation. But we have to see that they work under conditions when nothing is guaranteed for them anymore, and the only thing that pushed them to go back is pure desperation. So there we could argue that the other solution, instead of having people having to go back in a very unsafe place with wage cut, because they use COVID and coup to cut the wage also, and the lack of unions to cut the wage, to cut social benefit that were hardly won in the last decade. So they are basically forced to go back to very illegal and unsafe condition, or there is nothing else in some parts of the country if they don't get donation as CDM workers. And as we know, the needs are much greater than what's coming in the country in terms of donation, even if the Myanmar diaspora is making incredible concerted efforts to provide every month. It's dozens millions of people who need a monthly wage. And there, I guess the idea would be to support these former employees for the companies, maybe in another way, not inside the factory. What was interesting is we interviewed a former factory worker, a woman in Yangon, and she chose to not work under the military regime anymore. And then she actually turned into a researcher for a small CSO NGO on working conditions. So actually this whole terrible event can also be a way to finally make the right decision and empower people. So she became a researcher on the working condition in the industrial sector, which is incredible development. I wouldn't look at it. Yeah, I think looking at it black and white, we'll put two parts, the two sides in the wall. Obviously, there is no. The situation is so rotten that it's locked up. No, if you stop every investment in Myanmar, there will be less currency, less cash coming in. But anyway, as we know, very few of this cash actually goes to the people. And if you don't invest, actually you can invest in another way, in empowering these people in another way, so supporting them in another sort of work, because Myanmar had a very short kind of industrial revolution, was where it moved from mainly agricultural to all this industrial zone. But now they are in jeopardy because the country is deemed too unsafe to be attractive for international investment. So what do we do with this dramatic period of time? And this is maybe a period of time where the work of empowering the workers is still possible, actually, and would be a great use of this time. So all this parallel administration in ethnic state, all the parallel schools, all the parallel clinics, there is way to support civilian parallel resistance groups, to give some alternative to these people, because the alternative of you sit at home and have nothing to eat, or you go back to a really terrible job, not the job really, but the condition, very unsafe condition, is not a choice, and it's not fair to bring only this to people. So I think a third alternative way there is the way. Yeah.
I agree, and I think it's one of those strange situations. It's sort of a silver lining sort of case where we say, well, it's terrible that this is happening. It's awful. But in these extreme circumstances, people demonstrate a capacity that they even did not know before that they had. And we see now very rapid advances in people, in, let's say, inter-ethnic relations in Myanmar. We see rapid demands for social change, for political change, not just returning to the pre-coup status quo, but actually moving the country forward positively into a genuine democracy and a genuinely transparent government, which they did not have before. Yeah. And industrial relations are one of those. I mean, for those who were following it, even back then, I think it was the 14th of March, Handaya rose up and set fire to factories. And I think the military might have killed about 80 people just in that one district of Yangon in one day.
Yeah.
Horrendous violence. But, the factory workers have no choice. Food does not make itself, and they have nowhere to go, and they have nothing that they can do. So there is that small optimism that at the end of all of this, there can be genuine progress and genuine benefit for everyday people that would not have been achieved through the normal political process for many years, or possibly even for decades.
Yeah, because now they are pushed to a point of absolute indignity, and there is no way back for a lot of those people who have chosen to walk out. I talked to quite diverse social landscape now, from teacher to factory workers to agricultural workers, and some of the one who made the choice to to walk out, said we will never go back. And our kids were not in school for 2 years, but we will find ways somehow to educate them outside of the system. So the online is a big part of organizing people. You have this myriad of platform for free education, for free universities, to learn about cybersecurity. You have all this channel on Telegram, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, I'm not saying that it's a satisfactory replacement for quality education and healthcare, but I'm just saying that the will of people to build something parallel and the determination to not be part of the military system is still very strong. And what we have seen is the main I'm not sure we can call this coping mechanism, but what do people do in time of crisis? Actually, it's the same in every country at every crisis. When the teacher and the doctors lost their jobs, they were already not paid very well. What we saw is that most of them, they moved to sell things online, to buy at the market. So you go back to some kind of manual jobs, but on the free time, they are still doing voluntary job to teach the kids around in the neighborhood, to write program online that people can print and study themselves. And so what we see is that really a sense of sacrifice, that they sacrifice the career and the status for political ideology, and this has to be respected. And how they live is with the small help of local networks, as it was always the case in Myanmar. Really, at any time of the country, people only can rely on their local communities for most of their needs. And building on this, and so I think all these parallel initiatives are the one who needs to be strengthened and supported, so people have a third way to exist and to survive this time in economic dignity without losing the right to express political opinions.
I mean, to gain, I think, the right to express a political opinion for the first time, really.
Yeah, I mean,
in the country's history.
CDM is an expression of politics, no? So this, and not putting your child at school, and it's the choice of most people, and it has to be respected. And if the international community wants to have any role in this at this time, it has to integrate into this reality.
And so I'm glad that you raised the point of the international community. And towards the beginning of the interview, you mentioned as well that we can see from the analytics, we can see from the statistics, and also from anecdotal evidence that people internationally are not aware of the ongoing crisis. And that could be as, something like Thailand, a neighboring country, and not only a neighboring country, but a neighboring country that has taken a very large sudden influx of Myanmar refugees. And yet there are people in Thailand who do not recognize and are not aware of the scale of the crisis. Definitely in Europe, in North America, in Australia, the message is being lost. The interest in the case is being lost. It was fun to watch back in February, early March, and then after that it got boring. So the question is, what do you think that we can do in order to increase awareness of this crisis internationally?
I think in our small scale, we are reporters, so we do what we are trained and we can do, which is continue to report every day on collect documents every day what's happening in the country, check it, write it, and publish it in English, but also in Burmese. This will be the goal afterwards. So continue to write about it, at least for us who are in the region. But we do it, and then so it has to be in the media, and then I guess what's helping is when you make some kind of link with your own country. So for the Americans, they could angle it on Chevron, and the French, we should do more about Total. And when you put some kind of angle that your country has some kind of responsibility in the fate of another country, this will be helpful too. So there was, I know that some countries in Europe, like Czech Republic, they are still very on the case with Myanmar, because the politician, some of the politicians, mainly the mayor of Prague, is very supportive of the pro-democracy movement in Myanmar. So I would say that it's global now. It's the media. It's when you have some politicians who have some ear to the problem. We have some people at the Senate and the Parliament in France who are really committed to keep Myanmar on the agenda, and they had a hearing with the National Unity Government in Paris, and in the US too. You have some people who really push. So I think if the media and the politics can have some kind of influence in their own country on the economic impact, because this is how it works. If you say it enough in the newspaper, and then the politician feels they have to do something with the economic interest of the country, which are not sitting well with the values in some countries. So yeah, we have the role to continue writing about it. The politics have the role to continue talking about it in Parliament, and then the readership, and I would say at least people who are so, I would say, infused. I mean, when there was the election in 2015, it was a big thing. There was a lot of interest in the country. There was a lot of investment, and I feel that people should continue to inform themselves about what's happening there, because it's not only when you can go there on holidays and make money by opening a factory that the country is interesting. It's like now. It's really now, the real moment where people need to be supported. And I think it's important to explain to people that support can go so far, and give them a clear idea of the situation in the country, and then according to what they want to defend, they can only also contribute to very precise initiatives. So some people want to buy art from Burmese artists. Some people want to support journalists. Some people want to support the union leaders, according to what your values are. So I think it's our role to tell people what's happening, and to give them the path of being able to help. And actually, there was some. I feel it in. I'm telling you this because when the railway workers in Yangon were one of the first to go in CDM pretty fully. The train was stopped pretty quickly because they walked out, a lot of them. And then the railway workers union in France, who is very powerful, as you might know, can stop the train as they wish very regularly. in France. So they actually made a video in support of the railway workers from Yangon. So I thought that was really super interesting, the international solidarity beyond the elites also, no? Beyond the political and economic elites that are so slow to move because bound by so much interest. But I really like the on the street working class global solidarity that is also happening actually amongst the Thai and the Burmese youth. That was really fascinating in Bangkok just after the coup. On the day after, the Myanmar community organized a demonstration in front of the Myanmar embassy in Bangkok, and quite a lot of Thai people come from the pro-democracy groups, student groups from Thailand. And then I think it's the first time I saw, or we saw, anyone saw Thai and Myanmar people demonstrating together for democracy in the country. And maybe 1-2 months later, there was a big protest in the middle of Bangkok in front of the BACC in support of the release of Thai student political prisoners. And actually, they brought pans and pots because they saw this from Myanmar. So we had pans and pots hitting in the middle of Bangkok, and that was taken from the Myanmar people who also came to this. So I think this was really fascinating, and it gives hope in as I said, the political and economic powers takes a lot to change, if ever. But on the streets, people are aware of the shared oppression and issue and show some solidarity. So I thought that was really, really interesting to keep it on the agenda.
And I agree, and it really sort of shows. I mean, especially the example with the railway workers. Shows that they can engage with an issue and they can be interested in the issue.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know whether it was politics or whether they just enjoy seeing people protesting on the railways. But in any event...
No, it was politics. They were aware of the coup in Myanmar, and they said, we really support you in your fight for freedom and workers' rights. And so... I think if you explain to people how actually the situation in Myanmar and what people go through, anyone can relate in maybe one aspect, all aspect, and it's okay, we have to explain to them these are workers and they have the same needs and human rights. And I think when it puts in these words, it's actually pretty effective.
Okay. But then this for me just raises this question of, and maybe you as a journalist would have better insight. Why has normal reporting not succeeded? I mean, the images that we have, we have some truly horrendous and grotesque things that we've seen. We've seen the beatings, we've seen the murders, we've seen the bodies being burned, all of these sorts of things. These are shocking, and any normal person would look at that and say, well, this is horrendous and we should intervene because this is not a political disagreement. These are crimes against humanity, very clear and very obvious crimes against humanity. This is not about, well, do I support this party or do I support that party? This is far beyond that. Why has it not succeeded? Why have people not engaged with an issue where these atrocities are happening regularly and where we have the necessary footage and we have the necessary images to illustrate and to prove these atrocities? Why have people switched off?
I'm not sure if people have switched off or if it's the newspaper who have decided to talk less about it. You know what I mean? Is it people who are not interested, or is it that media don't buy stories from Myanmar from freelancer anymore? So the two questions, and the lack of interest from the media might be as I said, in France, if you don't put Total in the story, it's really difficult for people to relate. It's far. There is no connection really beyond this economic interest with the country. For the US, it's a bit different. But as we know now, China and Russia are the main economic partners of Myanmar, and they have no interest of providing this kind of information in their media. So you have the two most important economic power partners with Myanmar, who have absolutely no interest of having this information out in the media. And then you have the rest of the world, but the rest of the international community was far less interest beyond the pipeline, Total, Chevron, and the Thai and the Korean one. Beyond this, if you have no economic interest, there is no political interest, and then there is nothing in the media. I see it a bit like this too, because for example, in France, when there was what we call the Arab Revolution, it was widely covered for years in France, simply because France still have so much influence there. So it's also what's in the newspaper. It's also dictated by the interest of one country. And Myanmar now is China, Russia, and then you have India, who has also some interest in Myanmar, but who is so engulfed in his own issues of constant election and tension and division, and they have lost it, the influence on the countries around. So they have lost, after the earthquake in Nepal, China stepped in, and India basically lost the influence on Nepal because they behaved very badly. No, they put a boycott. They didn't support properly. So Nepal turned away to China, and India has shown some support before the coup, also by sending vaccine and stuff to Myanmar, but there is no real commitment to the pro-democracy side, that's for sure, from the Modi administration. So what I want to say is, like, the three big powers around Myanmar have no interest that this goes out, and the rest has not enough influence anymore in Southeast Asia in general, but also in Myanmar, to push this in the agenda. So I think public opinion, it's both ways, can shape politics, but also is shaped by politics. So if you see it every day on the newspaper, you will care, but if you don't, it will slip away. So I think at the end, it's choices that are beyond us, no?
Like, this is the problem with the businesses influencing politics influencing the newspaper influencing the people. It's a cycle. And somehow we need to break that cycle. So do you find that the sort of content that you produce over at Visual Rebellion, do you find that is picked up differently by audiences? Do they engage with it differently than traditional media?
So what we do two different things, in the sense of we put original content in this website, visualrebellion.org. So this is the selection of the best work in image and videos of our collective. And then since February, we collaborate with publication, for the moment mainly Mediapart, which is this French investigative newspaper I'm a correspondent for here. And the idea was to write in collaboration with people inside the country the day-to-day, on-the-ground reality, with their picture, their info, and Do we do it differently than the other? I would say that at least we try to do it on the long term, because also we are working, and so at the beginning I told you we were doing this news kind of day by day street protest, and then it becomes too dangerous, and it's not become irrelevant, but you said it also, how many dead bodies picture you gonna put and show, and it's like at one point it's also about dignity and what narrative we choose to talk about this war that is actually happening now. It's still important for sure to say that people have been extremely abused in terrific ways, but do we need to see the dead kid every day? Will this increase the interest? I'm not too sure at the end. I think what will increase is that you explain people properly what is the situation, but on a long term. So from June, we moved on to investigative reporting, where we follow one issue. So it can be the cybersecurity, it can be the situation around the pipeline, it can be the union in factories, or as I told you, what's happening at the Chinese border. So this long-lasting economic impact, what was really the reality of COVID, because we read everything about it in Myanmar, but really, what was it at the scale of a village? How did it happen? So I'm not sure. I don't know if we are doing better, but what we are doing is for sure long-term fact check by people who have been professionally trained to be journalists on one issue, on one place. So this is what we offer: hyper localized, checked information that will be constantly updated. And I think maybe now it's difficult to have people read this long report and stuff, but I think it will have some use to document all of this properly and in details. And on the side, we understand the fact that how it works, no, the landscape of information and the social media, that people really click on image and videos not more than 2 minutes, and so we create also this on the website. We create these videos, we have this post, we have this picture, because we simply know that it's much more easily shareable, and that people stop at it, and that Facebook algorithm will always promote image particularly, and then video. So I think you have to juggle all these things, doing very good quality long-term content that will be useful, we hope, to the society, or at least policy making at large, but also keeping the interest on a day-by-day basis by this viral, easy to share direct testimony on social media. So I think we have to play the game while fighting it, and still continuing every day, because there is no other way. It's also a question of respect for the dozens of local media houses in Myanmar who have been forced underground into hiding, and they still continue to every day to report. They call people in Myanmar, they write exclusive local interviews, and if they still do it, there is no reason we should not do it from the safety of Bangkok. So the team is coordinating here, but actually most of the team is in Myanmar, and they need to be supported and to be able to continue to do this work. Because as for the women factory worker I told you about, to become a researcher on workers' rights, I think for for the members of our team, and especially the journalists who are pretty young. They just went out of school when it happened, the coup and the COVID. So it's at this moment that they need to be supported, because it's the first entrance into the job at the hardest of times. I always said, if this happened to me at 20 years old, and there is a coup in my country just after I finish my journalist school, and that I'm in the front line of people who are targeted because of their job, I really would have like some support network. So yeah, this is what we're doing, because it's now that they need the message to be emphasized, and as if at least we can provide some logistical help, that's great, because it's really necessary that this Myanmar media can still function, because it's the only thing we have now to know what's happening in the country. Most of us foreign journalists in Southeast Asia have not been able to enter Myanmar since COVID even, and then the coup, it's completely impossible. So the source of information is Myanmar journalists who are in a really difficult situation. So that's them who have to be supported, because they are the only source for all of us to know what's happening in the country now. Yeah.
And I mean, it's sort of easier to think about the parallel to the medical students. There are a lot of medical students who are in university now that COVID has hit, and they suddenly have to, before even finishing their medical degrees, they're being recruited by governments as like, okay, you have to go do testing, you have to do, PCR, you have to do vaccines, you have to be on the front lines of a medical crisis, because this is the situation that we have. And thinking about their difficulties gives us a reference point to understanding the difficulties of fresh journalist students who don't have the training and they don't have the experience yet, and they're thrown into this situation.
Yeah.
And you talk about the training, and you talk about, the cybersecurity, you talk about the VPNs, you talk about all of these different elements that we now see as very important, very relevant. But you also mentioned before the algorithm, Facebook algorithm, YouTube algorithm, which is Google runs YouTube. These are notorious. And one of the notorious elements of the algorithms is that they reinforce information that people already expose themselves to, and they don't tend to want to share information which is seen as upsetting or negative. Do you think that there's been a role of the algorithms in working against spreading the information about Myanmar?
Oh, that's a huge pot we just opened.
I know it's a tricky one. I'm sorry.
No, because actually it's something we research pretty deeply. Our first report is about this, the war of the war that has moved, that will be published very soon in a few days, and the war that has moved online, the war of information, and. So there is different aspect to that. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, our platform at the beginning of the coup actually have been fingered for the inability to regulate military propaganda content. So you might remember that at the beginning, when people went in the street, you had the soldiers who went online and made videos saying, if you still continue, you will take one in the head and I will shoot with a real bullet. And so there was all these threatening videos which were spreading. And the platforms took weeks or months for some of them to do anything about it. So there is this responsibility for many reasons, they don't have the human resources or the interest or the sense of responsibility or the reactivity so this is all the reason are there. But then So you talk about the bubbles, and this is a huge problem, because now you have basically pro-democracy and pro-military camp who are fighting online too with different accounts. So you have actually pro-military civilian or soldiers who are creating Facebook accounts with a framing of the CDM or NUG or PDF to be able to make pro-democracy friends based on the similar profile picture, and to see what they say. And then you have I heard that some PDF, some CDM people do the reverse. They befriend military soldiers who have a Buddha or the word Tatmadaw or something in the profile picture or name. And then it's just this insane game of spying on each other. So these are the cracks in the bubble, because people who don't do this are only exposed by the nature of this platform and your interest, how they judge your opinions and the interest. You will be only exposed to what you already agree with most of the time. So this is the real problem of Facebook still being the main source of information in Myanmar. We made a small survey of our own scale. It's nothing scientific, but just on an anecdotal level. We asked 100 people inside Myanmar in September 2021 from very different background. Casual survey. What do you use on your smartphone? And 80% of the people still only use Facebook for everything, for talking, for sharing information, for reading information, for buying stuff. So it's just you have an immense role of Facebook in Myanmar that I can explain more, but I'm sure people familiar with Myanmar know why. No, when in 2000, from 10 to 15, you buy a smartphone in Yangon, and Facebook is already set up on it because Facebook had some deals with Telenor and some telecom operators to have the app set up straight on the thing. And as we know, the digital literacy was non-existent in Myanmar, because it was jumped from not even a landline suddenly to everybody a smartphone. So yeah, Facebook became the internet, and is still the internet despite all the disruption of the last months. So you have this big war. You have Facebook, who is much too important enough as a foreign company in this country, without the education that go with it, or without the human resources in the Facebook team to take down the things in time that should be taken down. As we know that there is this court case now at Facebook at the Washington court at the moment, brought out by CSO representing the Rohingya community, because they could prove that Facebook had a really inflammatory role in what happened in Rakhine State from 2016 onwards. And this has been magnified, obviously, since the coup, because now all sorts of other communities are being targeted in the same way by this really inflammatory fake news post. But yeah, our conclusion is that you cannot. You can ask them to take more responsibility, but at the end, it's the role of a society to build his own media sources and his own critical thinking and his own education, so that people are less vulnerable to such money-making profit platform functioning. So if we have something else to offer to people in terms of information, then Facebook lose a bit of its value. But this only works if media are properly funded and able to operate in the country. And we know that in Myanmar, even before the coup, access to information and to resources from Myanmar media was already very scarce. So you cannot fight free Facebook with your little newspaper. But then in a prospective future with a hopefully return of the rule of law, and then you can have some kind of support system, a proper press council who looks at ethics and deontology and relationship with money and with interview partners, and there is actually a lot of potential, and there is a lot of people who think about it in Myanmar, and I think even in exile it would actually be possible for Myanmar media to kind of gather in a council and to agree on some rules, because we saw that the PDF soldiers, they have rules of behavior, no? So why not the Myanmar media in exile could agree on some rules, and this would then increase the confidence of the public, who would then be less vulnerable to, as I said, all this monopoly of information by free platforms. So yeah, it's a big question, but there are solution, no? There are solution, and like for the rest, Myanmar is just as experienced such shell shocks in every aspect in the last months, be it on the war information, the economy, the conflict, the disease, and now is this very horrible time where everything pops up at the surface, and now for all to see, we can really see what are the issue really clearly, and I think the answers are clear for all and within. Strengthen the independent media is the only way to fight disinformation, I would say, and make sure that the state, the company, cannot have any influence on it. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good goal to have. It's just a very difficult, very high bar to reach. So, as you say, Facebook is automatic in Myanmar, and this is in large part because of the absence of net neutrality. So I think, as a side note, for many people in the West, because net neutrality was a talking point in the West a few years ago. There were talks of removing net neutrality, and people were talking and they're saying, well, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. We don't know what would happen. We do. We can look at Myanmar, and we can look at the way that Facebook cornered the market. And because Facebook data were free or were much, much cheaper than normal internet data, they were able to dominate all information services, trade, business, everything. Job interviews are done on Facebook. Facebook is everything in Myanmar. Because the videos or the posts we're talking about are very small, it allows people to make lots of them. Like a journalist writing a 5,000-word essay is researching for weeks, months, writing, rewriting, editing. One person on TikTok posting a 30-second video alleging that a crime happened with no evidence takes 30 seconds. And then he can make another one and another one and another one. And only one of those videos has to be viral. All of the other ones can fail. It doesn't matter. So they're flooding the market. So what I'm asking is, even if the media groups unify and they come up with rules and they have standards and professional principles, can they compete with these fake news factories that we see on TikTok and Instagram and even YouTube, even Facebook?
I don't think they will compete in the sense of it might not be. It can be the same audience, but I don't think the idea is to compete. We are simply doing different jobs in different shapes, and I'm not judging the micro content strategy of people who do 2 minutes video and stuff. When it's fake, that is the problem. It's not the format, the problem is the content, no? So I think that if someone writes a 5,000 words about a really important investigation that is of public relevance, I think he will find its readers, because you have many people in Myanmar or interested by Myanmar who wants to read details. So I just think it's a different audience. It's not mostly competition, but how I could see maybe some way forward, actually not only for the young generation, but for any generation, it's some digital media training in the sense of how we consume information. I know that in France, I don't know, in many countries you have this now. In France, at one point in our schooling, we had a lesson of actually what's the media landscape in France, what are the main newspaper, what are the political lines, and they tell you at 15, 16, okay, this is from the right, this is from the left, this is conservative, this is economic, so you know actually where you're going, you know who is behind. And I think this is really helpful, because diversity should be there, but people should know where they put their feet in. And this can also be done by journalists themselves or by activists. You have all this map in Europe, in France. We have all these maps of who owns which media, what kind of consequence it has. And this is all information that is findable. The only thing is to bring it to people in a viral way. So it can be via tweets. I also think that journalists should think a bit more about being more, that you can relate more, reach more, change a bit the format, not do this heavy academic long writing. We should also do it for some issue, for some reason, but it should be balanced with this easy to consume, easy to read, very valuable information. So for example, who owns the media is good, and is it a journalist behind? Because some of my Burmese colleague journalists, they tell me they saw all this new kind of publication where it's not really journalists behind, it's simply pro-military people who set up a paper to occupy the market now that the independent media are gone and cannot function anymore. So it's do not leave the floor, no? It's really important that we don't leave the floor to only pro-military information that we call propaganda, but be there, because they are there too. And if there is a void, it will be filled up by someone, no? So if there is a void, Facebook filled the void, no, at the beginning of Myanmar, and then some media managed to fight back, to exist. We have this incredible publication in Myanmar, from local to English speaking, were really doing great work, and now they are basically unable to function properly. They still do, but they don't have the resource, the safety, but the military have, so they are producing their own information channel and flooding, and this is really important to counteract this in any way you can, simply by factually verified information that you put out there. Because I don't think we will win against, there is no victory against Facebook or anything. The only important thing is not to leave the floor, to offer different things to people in the hope that the fact-checked non-inflammatory content will reach the most people and cut the influence somehow of content who is doing the opposite, to fuel tensions, and which is simply not true. So I think that's a big field, but it's totally Possible. You have the people who can do this in Myanmar. These workshops. You have the thinking. You have the. It's possible even now using online actually to talk about this, because you have, as I said, you have course about everything now online. You can take course. You can pursue your studies. You have all these cybersecurity safety clinics. You have all these tips. So it's simply playing the game of the algorithm to reach as many people as you can with factually relevant information. This, I would say, is the game. And for this, we need Myanmar Media House to be able to work and to have the resources to do it. So this is why a big part also of our website is providing a straightforward platform for donation, because this is the only way to continue the information being produced.
And certainly will make it easier for people who want to donate to find those donation links and make sure that the people who need those goods and education can receive them. I want to segue though, just on this topic of getting the information out there. You mentioned at the very beginning that your team is working on a documentary. Can you tell us anything about that?
So this is so our team, as I said, is made mainly of photographer, journalist, and then filmmaker and artist. So we have a team of filmmakers who filmed in Yangon and Karen State for close to 4 months after the coup, 4 to 5 months after the coup, and all the footage has been saved. So it's about people in the street, but it's also about their own experience of suddenly how the personal experience of being filmmaker in Myanmar was completely changed, traumatized, brutalized by the coup, and then they had to completely change their way of working, their way of living. They are now in hiding. So all the footage was sent to us and saved, and I said, we are on the run, we have only this, can you do something with it? So Andy from our team, who is responsible for the video, is working on making the most compelling documentary he can based on this footage. So it will be obviously credited to the filmmakers in Myanmar, but they simply don't have the time or the possibility right now to put it together themselves. So we are just helping in this way to shape it, but this will be their story. So it will be a documentary that we hope to release in a few weeks about the personal experience of covering the 4 to 5 first months of the coup, very close to the front line of people protesting. We already have a series of other videos. So this will be 20-25 minutes. And before this, we produce other kind of small films. It's 2 minutes 30. We have a series of 3 for now, but we aim for 10. So it's audios that are sent to me. So I just wanted to mention before, when you talk about safety, that actually I'm the only one who knows who the people are behind. Even the people in the team don't know. So the safety is also there. That I'm the only person who know who they are. So this is why they send to me the audio. We talk on Telegram, and they send me audio about. What is it? How is it, the life in Yangon when you cover protests, when you have to hide in a house for 3 days? All these things that we heard vaguely in some media at the beginning. but it's still happening. So we are doing this video based on audios, plus covered with video and image that were filmed from the street by our team. So this is episodes of 2 minutes 30, and from the ground. He talks when he's on the street, and so we want to show the direct experience also of people, but also what it is to be a journalist, a filmmaker right now in Myanmar, where the impact of the creative community. So also in the hope that other creative community in the world will emphasize with them and make some kind of collaboration, support. We are trying to have some international media to broadcast our videos too. It's because it's always about spreading the word, no? Spreading the word, showing the incredible work to the most people possible, and providing the funds so they can continue to do this and provide this public service for the society. To circle our conversation back, journalism in the ideal and is what we are supposed to do. We provide the information the society needs to make informed political and daily life choices. And obviously, a free press is a functioning press is totally necessary to the functioning of a society. And now the situation Myanmar is in now, the need for fair and verified information is even bigger than any times, no, of the country. So this is the big picture we are trying to. At the end, it's providing public information to people inside Myanmar, but also outside Myanmar who want to support and give them the pathways to do it the best by giving the most details. And yeah, this is only possible if then people know the value of journalism at the moment in Myanmar, and this is what we are trying to show in many different ways with our website and our work. So I think I will just add something, if it's fine, that some of our team, I would say half of the people have been subjected to really hard things in the course of their jobs. So some of them have been injured in the protest, shot at by police because they were taking pictures. They had to leave the house straight away to go into hiding into another state because they were identified as journalists in a pretty small place where there is not many. Some of them were attacked by thugs. You have also thugs hired by the regime at the moment to. Not at the moment, actually. It was during the protest in February, March in Yangon, where they would simply beat up and steal everything from young people in the street who look like student protesters. So one of our journalists was victim of this, got aggressed by 5 men. They took everything from him, the laptop, the camera, the phone, the paper. So I'm saying this to say that it's not charity what we're doing. We're paying people when they produce the content and send it and publish it, but also the needs are just immense and go beyond the professional, in the sense of it's just so dangerous to be a journalist at the moment in Myanmar, and so this is why this money goes in very different ways, no, to help them secure to help them secure a safe passage to another state, to help them buy another phone or a camera when it has been taken or stolen from them. It's really this war situation, and we have also a colleague who was not part of the collective, but colleagues of colleagues who have been arrested, and she's in jail now for 4 months. So a mother was relying on her income. So there is also the need to support the families of journalists who cannot work anymore. So what I'm saying is that it really goes a long way. When we provide the basic resources, like with one laptop, you can have 10 people working on it and writing stories. And so we are really trying to cover every aspect of their basic needs, because if this is not covered, they cannot work, and really want to attract the attention of the fact that Myanmar is now in the top 3 of the most dangerous countries for journalists, no, after China and Iran. So it's just want to say it's absolutely critical for all the reasons I exposed before that these people are supported because they work as a huge influence in their own community and society. And we provide different ways. You can offer yourself as a mentor, or if you have a specific skills, if you are a photojournalist, if you are environmental defender, if you have a specific skill, we are happy to set up sessions of training and conferences where you can talk to our team for 1-2 hours and sharing what you know to help continuing the training. And and otherwise the donation I used for the VPN, for the material, for English lessons. So all of them have been enrolled in a daily English lesson course that we created especially for journalists. So it's learning English via media with 2 certified English teachers here, one Burmese and one English. And for people who are in real danger, we had to make sure they were settled in another place, and to pay for passports, and to pay for vaccine, and to pay for these things so they can function. So I hope some people will come visit our site. We are on all the social media to fight back on their own ground. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, and Visual Rebellion Myanmar. And I hope you can appreciate and support our whole work somehow.
Hey, I have to tell you something. Yesterday, my house, my real house, the police and soldiers came to find my house. After they check in around my house 1 hour, they leave. They don't know anything. They just want to arrest and kill. They just want to do that. They don't care who you are. But it's really lucky for me. I was at home. They was come to my house and find the thing about the protest. My family was really scared about that. But I was true evident about that. I was high in my front house. It was really lucky for me. Wow, that was so close. It was maybe the landlord give the information to the police, because they was come to the house the right in time. We was come back our home for a long time. at least 3 months or 4 months. But the next 3 or 5 days, I will be go another place to live. No, I should live one place for a while. I must hide my identity to everyone. It was better for me.
So we're now fortunate enough to be joined by one of the photojournalists from Visual Rebellion, who's going to talk to us about his role in the photography and the research elements of the overall project. But before we get too deep into that, let me just let you introduce yourself. Can you tell us briefly what it is that you do at Visual Rebellion?
Yeah, I'm just a journalist who has just graduated. When I finished high school, I did not want to go to university or college. I did not want to be a student anymore, maybe because I hated the education system. I was looking for some non-government institute or college or somewhere I could learn something for a profession. Fortunately, one of my brother worked in media teaching, so he told me that I might be able to find a profession in this sector. And then I chose to attend the 1-year diploma course in multimedia journalism. This is how I came into this journalism world. And yeah, after this, Laure was a trainer in Yangon back in 2019. So we know each other since then. And after I was doing my job after the coup. Yeah, you know what? My job, journalism, going to the protests, taking pictures, making interviews, and I posted some pictures of mine on social media. And Laure Siegel, who is a French journalist, saw my pictures, and she wanted to produce some story together with me and my other friends who are also journalists for a French news company. Yeah, I do not work for a local media yet, and I was not a journalist at the time of the coup, but I was just doing my job under military dictatorship. Laure saw my pictures on social media, and she wanted to produce together with us. That's how Visual Rebellion Myanmar founded. Yeah.
So at the time of the coup, so that was almost 1 year ago, how much media experience, how much media training did you have?
We have just around 10 journalists on this platform, Visual Rebellion Myanmar. All of them are young reporter like me who has just graduated from journalism school. We have just like I said, we are young and inexperienced journalists. Oh yes, as you know, under the military dictatorship, it is very difficult to do our job, journalism. It is very strict. They arrested and even brutally killed everyone who was against them. And it is very easy for them to arrest everyone, no matter what you do, no matter what you say. And it doesn't matter whether you are an innocent civilian or not, but you are a journalist. You are almost certain to be arrested. Let me talk about my experience reporting under military dictatorship. Yeah, it was the hardest part when I was writing an article about Chuk oil refinery. When I went to Chuk, I was interrogated. They asked me what I was coming for, what I was going to do in the town, and if only I took my camera with me, I would definitely be arrested. But I went to there just with a phone to take picture, to record some interview, and they check on people my age more because they think people my age might be PDF, people different forces. Yeah, I took the most risk. I took much time to work on it. I say all the facts I could go in person and on the internet as well. I did it in a very difficult situation. I went to a town quite far from my place to talk and know more about the local. It was the hardest story I worked on because the soldiers' prison all around the factory and on the road, but stay the best one, I guess. Yep.
Wow. And so when did you begin covering the coup? Did you start on the very first day, or was it a few weeks before you began to start documenting?
Yeah, I started a few days after the coup because there were so many protests in our town just after the coup, so I had to go to the protest, to the demonstration, and took pictures, make interview. Yeah, so
And were they peaceful protests when you started doing your reporting? Were the protests relatively peaceful?
yeah, in the first day of demonstration, yeah, it was peaceful, but starting from March 3, they started shoot with live ammunition or like tear gases, and then they kill a student who is also 19, an engineering student. He fell to the ground. Uh, I saw it with my own eyes, and then the next day there were there were no protests anymore since that day. Yeah.
Wow. And so what I'm wondering is, has anyone else reached out to you other than Visual Rebellion? Have you been contacted, or have you had the opportunity to work with large media organizations to spread awareness?
No, I haven't been. Yeah, I have not worked in local media yet. We have contacts from all over the country, Upper Burma, Central Burma, and including Yangon. All of them graduated from journalism school together with me in the same year. Uh, all of them are very talented. They have a diploma in multimedia journalism, so they can write and produce text story, and they can also take very good pictures because they understand and be proficient in photojournalism. We produce documentary as well, and we have learned everything about journalism. So I believe that visual rebellion can reach at a certain level in a short time if there's enough support.
Okay. I mean, that's definitely important for us to achieve because, yeah, as I say, and as you're aware, many of the international media organizations are just not focused on Myanmar. Many of them have left Myanmar. And the few that do focus on Myanmar issues still, they desperately need and they rely on the Myanmar journalists, the young Myanmar journalists like you, who get the photos and who get the images and who reveal those stories. And so that's something that I want to ask you about. As a journalist covering the coup, covering the dictatorship, covering the crisis, really, what are the sorts of things that you've seen? What are the sorts of things that you've written about and photographed?
So I'm going to tell what I saw after the coup and what I have done on Visual Rebellion. Yep. So mostly I'm a photojournalist, so I took pictures. I took so many pictures, not in the video that much. I don't do video that much, so I took mostly pictures and I write story mostly about the protest demonstration. As I said, on the 3rd of March, one student, an engineering student, was killed in front of my eye, and I saw it with my own eyes. He is my friend in high school. On March 3, one person was killed during the protest. He is my friend, an engineering student, and I saw it with my own eyes. And in that day, at least 10 were injured, and I was the only reporter there. I was the only one who, with the camera, I took picture of the injury people. They have been that they have no protect since that day, and no major shooting have been taken. Yeah, that's all.
So, what we have been seeing over the last 6-7 months is that interest internationally in Myanmar has been dropping. Not many people are engaging with the crisis. Do you, as a journalist, have any ideas what we can do to increase engagement, to increase interest in the international community?
Myanmar has been under dictatorship for more than 16 years, so these are no longer special. This is not a new coup, so it is not surprising that the international community has been decreasing interest. So, in addition, no one has been able to do anything about the past killing of ethnic groups by the military in Burma. So, international interest in Burma may be decreasing because there are more important issues than Myanmar, and no one could do anything on the case like Rohingya people in Rakhine State. So I think it is not surprising they lose interest on us.
But what can we do to regain interest? Because the international community's pressure is very important. It's important to stop companies from giving money to the junta. It's important to pressure governments to sanction and take action. So it's very important that people know what is happening and that journalists can inform them. But how can we make people interested?
I think the only way to regain interest on Myanmar is the responsibility of national unity government, especially, I think. So, but many young people in Myanmar, including some PDF soldier, they do not believe in NUG. I don't know why they just do not believe. So I think we have to fight. We have to fight for ourselves, and I think many PDF they do not rely on international community. They are doing their job whether they do not care about X or not. So I don't know. I don't know how to regain the interest.
Interesting. So then, in that case, if you're saying it is the responsibility of the national unity government, what function, what role do you see for journalism in helping to end this crisis?
We have to do our job of journalism like usual, and under military dictatorship, it is not inevitable that you do not want to be a journalist anymore. We must try to have our country as much as we can with what we have learned. So we will continue to work until the military dictator disappear, and it will help us anyway.
But like, what role do you think this has? So how do you think journalism will help to end the dictatorship?
Journalism will help to end the dictatorship. Of course, it is all about letting the world know about what's happening in Myanmar. Without journalism, the world would be ignorant. Journalism is important because it gives current and relevant information and news to the public, and of course to regain the interest again from the international community. And our goal is to continue covering what is happening in Myanmar in town location. So, well, there are not many journalists left anymore, bring to the world professional images, videos, and research by local trained reporters, provide a platform where donations are easy to make, so we can continue supporting the production's content.
And so you talk about it, it's difficult to find journalists. Many of the journalists have left. We've seen a rise in amateur journalists. So normal people, they have a camera phone, they take photo, they take video. Do you think there is a difference in what a professional journalist can do and what an amateur journalist can do?
Yeah, there is so much different between amateur journalists and the professional journalists, because we have now so many journalists called citizen journalists. They are like normal people. They just take pictures and post it on the internet or somewhere. Yeah, they are just normal people like us, but they are not trained journalists. And we have so many kinds of journalists under the military coup. There's so much different, obviously.
We want to present a special opportunity for donors who are committed to our show. While we want to stress that we greatly appreciate donations of any size, larger donations, of course, are particularly helpful. For that reason, we're encouraging donors with means to consider sponsoring a full episode for a one-time donation of $350 or more. Donations in this category can include a dedication, if you'd like, to a person or organization, as well as a quotation or expression. Or your generous donation can be anonymous. The choice is yours. In either case, it would give you the satisfaction of knowing that you enabled at least one more episode to be produced for the benefit of the people in Myanmar who have suffered so much at the hands of the military. If you would like to join in our mission to support those in Myanmar who are being impacted by the military coup, we welcome your contribution in any form, currency, or transfer method. Your donation will go to support a wide range of humanitarian missions, aiding those local communities who need it most. Donations are directed to such causes as the Civil Disobedience Movement, CDM, families of deceased victims, internally displaced person, IDP camps, food for impoverished communities, military defection campaigns, undercover journalists, monasteries and nunneries, education initiatives, the purchasing of protective equipment and medical supplies, COVID relief, and much more. We also make sure that our donation fund supports a diverse range of religious and ethnic groups across the country. We invite you to visit our website to learn more about past projects as well as upcoming needs. You can give a general donation or earmark your contribution for a specific activity or project you would like to support, perhaps even something you heard about in this very episode. All of this humanitarian aid work is carried out by our nonprofit mission, Better Burma. Any donation you give on our Insight Myanmar website is directed towards this fund. Alternatively, you can also visit the Better Burma website, betterburma.org. That's betterburma.org, and donate directly there. In either case, your donation goes to the same cause, and both websites accept credit cards. You can also give via PayPal by going to paypal.me/betterburma. Additionally, we take donations through Patreon, Venmo, GoFundMe, and Cash App. Simply search Better Burma on each platform and you'll find our account. You can also visit either the Insight Myanmar or Better Burma websites for specific links to those respective accounts, or email us at info@betterburma.org. If you'd like to give it another way, please contact us. Thank you so much for your kind consideration and support.
Sorry for my late reply. As you know, it was not easy to communicate because this situation is not good. It was 2 weeks ago, and now so many people were hit by a bomb. Early last night, 2 or 3 bombs was exploded in the city. I mean, I'm okay. At least I was alive. Right?
At least I was alive. I mean, I'm okay. I don't know how long we has had this situation. Every day I want thinking about my future. How long it take and how long we have to wait to end this. Sometimes I was lost my ambition. Sometimes I depressed. Every day we become harder and harder to live, to eat, to sleep. I have no idea how do I live in this country. Sometimes I wish I just go live on the moon alone. But I'm trying to stay strong. If I'm becoming depressed and just think about, I'm okay, I must stay alive. At least I was not dead, I must not get hurt. I'm trying to motivate my mind with that.